Alright guys, so right now we are sitting at full droop. It is fully extended up. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let it all the way down so I can show you guys the suspension cycle. Let's go ahead and lower it. Alright, and right there, that is full bump. As you can see, the coilover is fully compressed. It is sitting on the bump stops, track bar, everything is super close. Everything is super tight tolerances. The steering all the way over here is super close, super tight, but everything does clear. Alright guys, so real quick, I'm going to show you what's going on here. So I did go ahead and put the ride height to about center. I did put a little Sharpie line here. I'm not sure if you can see it there. Just that little bit of black. I did put it 8 inches up, 8 inches down. It's a 16-inch stroke shock. So the shaft here is 16 inches long when it's fully extended. So I put a mark there right at 8 inches, so it has 8 inches of up travel, 8 inches of down travel. So now I'm getting it all set up here to start doing the other actual steer bar. So I have this heim here with the weld-on bung. I have the steering gearbox up here. I have the pitman arm there, and then the other heim there. So I'm going to take a measurement from just inside that lip there, all the way down here to just inside this lip. I'm going to take a measurement, I'm going to cut a tube to length, I'm going to bevel the edges so I can get a nice deep weld in there, and I'm going to drill for rosette welds on both ends. I'm going to go ahead and slip it in, tack it in place, and then I do still have to build the steering shaft from the gearbox. I have to build the steering shaft from the gearbox up to the steering shaft on the Pathfinder. I do have a ZJ steering shaft, it's over there. So I'm gonna take half of that shaft and half of the Pathfinder shaft, kind of cut it and splice it together so it has the slip joint and everything. That way everything will work properly. I'm just gonna kind of modify them because the ends are different. So I have to still make that steering bar and the steering shaft, and then the steering should be fully set up and done. I'm going to have to figure out the lines from the pump to the gearbox still, and then I think it's getting the correct springs and some brake lines and bleed the brakes, and then I think the front's just about done. So let's go ahead and let's get this steering bar finished. Alright, so here we go. I do have the steering bar tacked in place, cut. I did put a 15-degree bend to match the other ones, so that way during full cycle of steering, see here, it still has room all the way. That's at full lock, as well as over here. Steering clears there, and then we'll go ahead and we'll swing it all the way the other way. So that's that. That's going to be the steering. So let's go back to center. So you see here, I did put the 15-degree bend. I did bevel. See how you grind the ends so they taper back so you can get a nice deep weld down in there. I did rosette weld 2 different spots on each end. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the bar off, fully weld it, as well as this track bar. That one has been ready to weld as well, so that's gonna come off. That way everything will be fully welded in the front. and then we can start tearing down for paint. So I have the 2 steering bars and the track bar off, cleaned up and taped off. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna spray them gray to match the 3 link bars. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we are working on the Pathfinder build. So here is the original Pathfinder steering shaft that we have pulled out. This went to the small little, it's not really a gearbox, but it's more of a gearbox, like a 45-degree bend, 90-degree bend, whatever angle it was, but it was just kind of a pivot joint, and it went down to the rack and pinion. So this comes from the steering wheel. There's a rubber bushing with another knuckle on there, and then it slides in and it bolts on here. So we're gonna cut off and we're gonna reuse this spline shaft so that way it reattaches to the truck. And here's what we have now. It's the WJ steering shaft that we got off of eBay Motors, actually. This is going to go to our WJ steering gearbox that we have custom mounted to the frame. We have the slide shaft. I need it to be 17 inches. Well, it's about like 17 3/4 inches. I'm gonna shorten it a little bit because it is a slide shaft. So I did actually cut it at 16 inches, so it will be a little bit extended. So now what I did, I went ahead and I cut off the truck side of it on there. There is a difference. I don't know if you can see it very well, but these are flat. Both sides are flat, and then on the truck side, you can see they're kind of round. It's like for more of like a rounded shaft. So that's the side that I cut off, so that way this goes on the gearbox. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut this shaft a couple inches off this shaft. I'm gonna sleeve it inside here. I'm gonna weld it, and then I should be able to paint it and bolt it in, and then the steering should be fully connected. So let's go ahead and let's clean this up. Let's get this other end cut off, welded on, and then we'll test fit it, and then we will make sure everything fits and works properly. Make sure that all the steering and everything works, and then we will go ahead and we will get it all painted and then put in for the final time. Okay, so here we go. Here's the final product. I have not test fit it yet. I'm about to test fit it, but I did cut this down. I cut it down. Everything was about 15 inches, and then we added this. No, actually it was 13 inches because I cut it again. So from end to here was 13 inches, and then I added about 2 1/4 inches with the shaft here. So it is fully welded on. Everything is as straight as I could get it. Not perfect, but it's pretty dang close. So let's go ahead and test fit it in the truck. All right, steering shaft is in place. I'm gonna try to get you some light here. You can see it goes up into the original knuckle there. Maybe show you right here a little bit better. Kind of hard to see, but it's in there. It's clamped down, it's bolted down. And then the one down here with the gearbox is bolted in place. It does have a little bit of shaft slide. It's only, I don't know, about 1.5 inches or so, but I mean, that's all it needs. It needs to be able to move and function. That's about it. So that's it. It is fully in place, bolted in. I'm gonna pull it back out. I'm gonna paint it, and then I'll throw it back in for the final time. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna mount the reservoirs for the front coilovers. I just ran down to SHQ, got the resi mounts and the hose clamps here. So what we're gonna do here, let me get over here. So these are gonna end up being welded on like this, one there, one probably over here. That way you can run a hose clamp through it and around the reservoir. So let me set these down. So the reservoir is gonna sit like this. It'll be just tucked up in there. You'll be able to get to the nitrogen supply there on the end. It will be hovered off the body. Everything will be clearance and ready to go. So let's go ahead and let's get these clamped on here, and let's get them in place. Let's tack them, and then we'll pull the resi out and we'll fully weld them in. Alright, we got the reservoir mounts welded in there. I'm going to shoot that little spot with gloss black just to blend it all back in. Show you the other side here. So it is just real thin body right there, so all I did was I just turned the welder way down. So let's go ahead and get some paint on it. All painted up. Just gonna go ahead and let it dry here for probably 30 minutes or so. There you go. Did a little bit of touch up around here. Sprayed this bottle. Sprayed these little inner lip fender parts that are normally covered by the factory bumper. We're gonna put some amber trailer lights probably right there for the blinkers, because in this body style the blinkers are usually like in the bumper down here. So since we don't have the factory bumper, we're gonna put some little LED trailer lights on there. Alright, so I wanted to show you here, I did go to the Parker Hose store and we had some brake lines made. They're really long right now because it is basically almost to bump. I did fully jack it up, stretch its legs, and then I still gave it a couple inches of play with the wheel turned with the brake caliper all the way out. So like this side I would have been doing a driver's side turn, so the caliper would have been further out in the vehicle, making the line tighter. And then I did add probably 2 extra inches worth of play, also to give us enough to direct it around the coilover. Once the springs and everything are on there, we're going to attach it and we're going to make sure it stays in line. And we're probably going to put some kind of a bungee system to pull the brake line in, so it's not just to lower the chances of it ever getting caught or pinched in anything, because this thing does have kind of a ridiculous amount of wheel travel. So it's all going to work good. We got the brake lines in on both sides. Show you this one here. But they're nice. They're stainless steel braided, and it has that blue sleeve over it. Okay, so today we're working on the Pathfinder. Here I am making kind of a combination of things to make my lines. So since it is a WJ gearbox and then it's a Pathfinder, of course, nothing's just, you can't buy parts and bolt them up. So what I did here was, for the return line, I bought a stock WJ return line. It gives me my fitting. And then what I did was I just went and bought a longer hose. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put this hose on here, I'm going to move the clamp, and then I'm assuming this plastic sleeve is kind of for a heat shield. It does run kind of right next to the exhaust. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to put that on this hose as well. And then I'm going to attach this end to the gearbox. I'm going to run it up, I'm going to cut it to the length that I need, and I'm going to put a clamp on that side. So easy peasy, that one's simple. The high pressure, I did just go to the Parker Hose store. I took my pieces, I took the end off the stock Pathfinder power steering pump here. I took the end in, and then I went to O'Reilly's and I bought actually the high pressure line for that gearbox. So I took it in there, and so I could show them what end I needed, which ended up being the 18 millimeter. So then I gave them a length, and they ended up building me this hose. So it's a high pressure line. This goes in like normal. It goes to just this normal threaded end, and then they did give me the black anodized fitting, which has all the proper dimensions and everything. So that's going to go ahead and go on. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to throw these on, and I'm going to show you. Okay, so here we go. I do have the high pressure line in. You can see it goes on the top of the gearbox there, curves down and around, and then it is the shiny silver part right in the middle. I do apologize. You can see also right there, just in the middle, you can see the low pressure kicks off, goes around to the side, and it does come in this fresh hose right here into the back of the reservoir. I did already fully assemble all this, put the intake on, put this canister, I'm not sure what it is. I put all that back on, and I was like, crap, I forgot to film it. So I pulled the intake back out just so you guys can see a peek here. So high pressure line does go straight up, that little black fitting. You can kind of see it right there. Goes up, loops around, and then it goes in right there, right in the side of the power steering pump there. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put this intake back on. I need to fill everything back up with fluids, double check all my vacuum lines and everything, and then I think we're good to go ahead and give it a start. And then I think we're just about ready to flip it around, start doing the rear. I have to weld on the limit straps, which I'm probably going to do that tonight. Then the front end will be done. So let's go ahead and let's get this back together. All right, here we go. Everything is fully back in. Radiator, fan shroud, intake, whatever that thing is. Everything is back in place. The only thing that we did not put in is the bottom of the old air box, just sitting over there. We're not gonna put that in. It's all fully sealed and everything in here anyway. So the only little hole, which does remind me, that hole there, we are going to block that, so it will be fully sealed. So, but that's gonna be a wrap. I'm gonna put some coolant in it. I'm gonna top off power steering fluid, and we're gonna give it a start. All right, so here we go. I got it running. I did just fill it up with water for now. I wanted to flush it out anyway, so we're not gonna waste money on coolant yet. I did top this off over and over and over and over. Finally, it's full. Everything's good. No leaks, no nothing. I turned the steering wheel full turn to full turn. Couple different times. Everything's holding pressure. No leaks. That is still at least half full of water there. It's not burping anymore. I got the heater on. Everything's good to go. Got all the vacuums up, everything. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna bleed the brakes, and we're gonna get the limit straps on.